Welcome to Recap King. In this video, we will explain Thermae Romae. This movie tells a story of an ancient Roman architect having trouble coming up with ideas. He discovers a hidden tunnel underneath a spa leading to a modern Japanese bathhouse one day. Inspired by the innovations found there, he created his own spa, Roma Thermae, bringing modern ideas to his time. How is his journey to travel time to the modern era? Let's find out in Thermae Romae.
Thermae Romae.
Thermae Romae tells a story of an ancient Roman architect, a man named Lucius, who is having trouble coming up with ideas. Some of Lucius' designs are being rejected by prospective clients because they think his designs are outdated and monotonous. His friend, Marcus, tries to cheer up Lucius by taking him to a public bathhouse to freshen up. Lucius thought that the bathhouse should be a comfortable place to cool off. However, the reality is very different from what he expected. The bathhouse was very noisy, crowded, and full of people who only minded their own business, ignoring others who needed quiet like him. However, Lucius had no choice but to follow Marcus to enter there. He then dived into the bathtub to escape the crowd. While Lucius is brooding underwater, he discovers a hidden tunnel underneath a spa. Lucius, who was curious, then swam towards it. But instead, Lucius was swept away by a very strong current, which made him think he would drown. He then tried to fight the current and swim to the surface. However, Lucius was surprised when he found that he was in another place and in a different era. Lucius, from ancient Rome, is stranded in a modern Japanese bathhouse. Although initially surprised to be in a different place, he was immediately impressed by the public baths whose walls were covered with paintings of Mount Fuji. Lucius, who came from ancient times, seemed impressed by the modern items he found there, such as water taps and fans. He then wondered about the function of the dipper and the basket to put the toiletries. Lucius, who did not realize that he was not wearing anything on his body, ran out and entered the women's bath. However, it caused a commotion, and Lucius had to be hit by a blow that caused him to faint because he had acted presumptuously in the women's bath area. In the same place, a woman is busy drawing sketches in her drawing book. The woman named Mami Yamakoshi works as a manga creator. Seeing the handsome, well-built, and athletic Lucius, Mami took the initiative to paint him. But then, some men from the bathhouse came to take Lucius away from there. When Lucius had regained consciousness, an old man handed him a bottle of fruit-flavored milk. Because of the pleasure of drinking the milk, Lucius fainted again. And when he woke up, he had returned to his time, where everyone looked worried because he had almost drowned. Lucius thought that what he had just experienced was just a dream. But after finding the bottle of milk he was drinking, he was finally convinced that he wasn't dreaming and was really there. Inspired by the innovations found there, Lucius creates his own spa, Roma Thermae, bringing modern ideas to his time. He made the baths more comfortable with paintings of mountains lining the walls, providing dippers and closed baskets for visitors. Even milk to freshen up after bathing. Lucius's public bathhouse design instantly became famous, as all flocked there, attracted by the various innovations they would not find anywhere else. One day, Lucius met his master, who visited the bathhouse because he wanted to see Lucius's works. The man then asked Lucius to rub his back. But because the scrubber fell into the water, Lucius was forced to dive to retrieve the tool and was suddenly pulled back into a strong current, causing him to travel again into the future. This time Lucius was stranded in a tiny bathtub whose water was quite hot. He wondered why the water in the bath could be hot, even though it wasn't being heated. Lucius found several objects, such as showers and tools, that are usually worn on the head when shampooing so that the shampoo foam doesn't get in the eyes. Apparently, Lucius was in the bathroom of a house that turned out to be the home of Mami's editor. Unexpectedly, Mami accidentally to be there to submit her work. She then met with Lucius when she was about to go to the bathroom. But Lucius, curious, accidentally sprayed insect repellent on his face until he fainted and suddenly disappeared. Lucius returned to his time and immediately applied the things he found in the future in his master's bathhouse, which made his master seem happy and satisfied with the innovations made by Lucius. In the evening, Lucius and his wife were having dinner at their house. Lucius's wife seems happy because now they are living prosperously after Lucius became a famous architect and was admired by many people. However, their married life did not make Lucius happy and passionate, so his wife became annoyed and angry with him. One night, Lucius was visited by one of the representatives of Emperor Hadrianus, who asked him to immediately appear before the emperor. Long story short, Lucius finally met Hadrianus, who had a high artistic soul and greatly admired beautiful works of art. Hadrianus knew about Lucius's work on the public bathhouse and was very impressed with Lucius's innovation and design. He then ordered Lucius to make a unique bathhouse only for him so that only Hadrianus had the bathhouse. Lucius then confidently agreed to the request. Lucius then met with one of Hadrianus's right-hand men, Antonius, who explained to him some conditions he had to fulfill according to the emperor's wishes. Lucius racked his brain, thinking of various ways to make a bathhouse according to Hadrianus's wishes. In the dark of night, while walking around looking for inspiration to build the bathhouse, Lucius accidentally fell into a puddle of water. Elsewhere, Mami, who has a side job as an employee at a bathroom supply store, seems to have fallen asleep because she was too tired to work on her manga. But then, a man who turns out to be Mami's boss comes and scolds her for neglecting her work. At the same time, suddenly Lucius appeared in one of the bathtubs in the shop window. Mami, who saw Lucius's appearance, immediately took him away. She then accompanies him to see the goods in the shop storefront, where Lucius seems interested in the latest technological toilets and bathtubs. However, Lucius suddenly felt heartburn, so Mami led him to the toilet. At the time, Lucius looked confused because the toilet used a toilet seat and shower, inspiring him and applying the innovation to the emperor's bathhouse. When Lucius returned to his time and applied all the information he found in the future to Hadrianus's bathhouse, the emperor seemed very satisfied and gave him a gift. However, when Lucius returns home, he is shocked to find his wife having an affair with his best friend, Marcus. Elsewhere, Mami finally decides to return to her hometown after being fired from her job because she continues to fail in making manga. She then works at a public bathhouse while studying ancient Roman history to find out more about the coins given by Lucius. Lucius seemed frustrated and down after his wife cheated on him and chose to leave him. The emperor's envoy came to Lucius and asked him to come before the emperor. Hadrianus then asked Lucius to make a pool for his pet crocodile, which he claimed was his son's reincarnation who drowned. After that, Lucius was asked to check something in the emperor's bathhouse. However, when Lucius entered the water, suddenly, his body was pulled by a strong current, causing him to drown. Elsewhere, Mami visits a crocodile sanctuary with a man who is her date because she was arranged by her parents. Lucius suddenly appeared and seemed impressed by the place. Because Mami was finally able to meet Lucius again, she invited him to visit many places, one of which was a hot spring. Lucius then applied the innovation to Hadrianus's bathhouse. Not only that, he made a crocodile breeding place for the emperor because he was inspired by the place he had visited before. On the other hand, rebellions against Hadrianus's rule spread to many regions. So, the emperor ordered Lucius to build a public bathhouse for the citizens, but on behalf of the Hadrianus's nephew, Ingenious. Hadrianus did this to attract the support of the citizens because he wanted Ingenious to take his place. But Ingenious was too arrogant and often behaved arbitrarily. Lucius then met Ingenious at his residence and told him about Hadrianus's plans and orders. However, Lucius is about to refuse the order and meets a man who is his rival in architecture. They then argued, and Lucius suddenly fell into the well. He was carried away into the future and found by Mami in a hot spring bath in her hometown. The residents there apparently welcomed Lucius' presence. Even the elders there invited Lucius to drink sake together. However, with just one gulp, Lucius was instantly drunk. Mami then told him to drink water from a natural hot spring to restore his condition. Lucius and Mami then plunged into a hot spring pool. Returning to ancient Rome. For a while, Mami lived with Lucius. Lucius then plans to meet with Hadrianus to tell him about Lucius's refusal. Mami tried to stop Lucius because she was worried about his safety if he dared to oppose the emperor, but he didn't seem to care. Elsewhere, the elders seem to be looking for the whereabouts of the missing Mami. They accidentally fall into a hot spring bath and travel to ancient Rome magically. Turning back to Lucius, after telling Hadrianus that he had refused the orders, Lucius was expelled from there. Lucius found a natural hot spring on a rocky hill on the way home. When he arrived home, Mami told Lucius that Antonius had been exiled by Hadrianus and would be made a governor in a remote region. Hearing this, Lucius seemed surprised because if Antonius was exiled, Ingenious' chances of becoming emperor would be wide open, while Lucius did not want that to happen. Lucius and Mami then got the idea to cancel Antonius' exile. Lucius immediately rushed to Hadrianus and said that Antonius had asked him to make a hot spring near the war zone to restore the condition of the wounded soldiers on the battlefield. Hearing this, Hadrianus immediately ordered Lucius to create the bathing place. Lucius immediately built the hot spring with the help of elders from Mami's hometown, which had previously been swept away by the current and moved to ancient Roman times. Gradually, the hot springs created by Lucius and elders grew and extended until they could make the soldiers recover quickly and return to the battlefield until they finally won the battle against the rebels. They celebrate the victory by drinking together in the evening while sitting around the bonfire. However, not long after, the elders suddenly disappeared from there, as did Mami, whose body disappeared slowly. Mami cried happily because Lucius thanked her. She then realized she would vanish and part with him soon. But Lucius said that there are many ways leading to Rome. After that, Mami vanished from ancient Rome and returned to the future, right by the hot spring where Mami and the elders fell into the water. Having won the victory against the rebels, Hadrianus cancelled Antonius's exile and made him his advisor. Hadrianus then gave gifts and awards to Lucius because he was considered a figure who had contributed to the victory of the Romans against the rebels. The scene then switches and shows Mami walking in the city, and suddenly Lucius appears in a nearby pond, and the film ends. The moral that can be learned from this movie is never to go alone to a public bathing place, because if a sudden current takes you to a certain era, at least you have friends, and you don't get lost alone.